So thank you very much once again. Thank you also for explaining the mission, which stands for UXDX, because actually I think this is like the goal of all UX teams and DX as well, and the whole people obsessed with the product. And today I would like to give you the more understanding about how I'm conducting UX research at my current company, because I think this is quite interesting. So we'll be talking about UX research process, about impact, about methods, and also a little bit about cybersecurity products, because I found it quite interesting. So I will introduce you to the process I usually follow. I will also introduce you to the area for research and cybersecurity products. Also, I will be talking a little bit about research methods and how to choose the best one to support decision-making process. And on the end, of course, I will summarize that just to explain you why I explained that why I said all of that to you, and why I think this have an impact for the product. But before I jump into the next section, let me introduce myself. I'm Łukasz Ogrodniczak. I'm from Poland, and I'm UX researcher, of course. And I think I'm quite obsessed with user experience and conducting research, probably because I'm a psychologist. I mean, I've graduated psychology, it was my major, and I was always very much into combining technology and psychology, you know, about all of the cognition, emotions, motivations of people. That's why I started to work as UX researcher. But before that, I was working for a marketing research agency, which was Kantar. Then I jumped into marketplace platform, and probably you don't know that because Allegro is mostly focused on Polish market, but this is one of the biggest marketplace platform in Europe currently, because they acquired some different platforms, and I think you can check this website because it's very interesting. But why I'm saying that to you, because maybe it's not very relevant for now, but I've decided to change a job like 8 months ago and start working for Acronis, which is cyber protection company. And now I will have a bridge, because once I've been communicating that to the stakeholder and my colleagues from my previous job, they started to ask me what kind of research, what I will actually do on that cyber protection company. Because, you know, for their understanding, like cyber protection company is like very deeply connected to, by the way, development and backend and, you know, all of that technical solutions. And they've been worried that they will have nothing to do with this company. And, you know, on the beginning, I was starting to be, you know, like, oh my God, guys, of course I will have like a lot to do, like plenty of work. But their question arise on me like different doubts. Because, you know, if we are talking about the marketplaces, most of us understand that product because we are buying different things online. Sometimes we even selling online. So we have like understanding, like general understanding how marketplaces, platform and products are working. But what about cyber protection company? Because I don't know what about you, but before me joining to this company and having the first interviews during the hiring process, I wasn't very much interested on that. And by the way, I think cyber protection is like very important nowadays because we all jumped into, you know, digital environments, and we have like a lot of smart devices connected into the Wi-Fi. So I was starting to wondering, okay, do I really understand what I will be doing there? But then I started to thinking that I was supposed to follow like research process, which I know, which I and follow these steps which are already introduced in my previous jobs. So actually this is very interesting, because what you are seeing right now is product development cycle. And this is the framework we introduced at Allegro. And by the way, you can read about that in the article, because my previous boss, Alina Magowska, she recently wrote some article about Allegro and about collecting insights, and she introduced that cycle as well. But briefly talking, what I would like to show you here, that we supposed to conduct research on very different steps on product development cycle. Starting from strategy, when we deciding why we should do something and what we're supposed to do. Then we are going to the exploring phase, when we need to explore what we're supposed to do in what way, just to fill the gaps on the market, or just, you know, attract more people into our product. Then we, of course, we have that design step, which I believe most of the people assigned to, you know, UX research activities. Because if we think about UX research, usually most of the people thinking about, you know, conducting some usability testing session, just evaluating interface and how people interact with that. Then after developing, also we can have like some A/B tests and conducting UX research by conducting some testing. But what I would like to say to you here, that we're supposed to have not only cover that two steps, like designing and developing, but also very different steps like exploring and what's happening after releasing some features, because this is very crucial for us if we would like to have an impact. And as a UX researcher, also at Acronis, we try to follow all of that steps. It's not always possible because, you know, we not always have resources. I mean, we don't always have people to cover all of that steps, but we're supposed to be on that steps of exploring, on delivering, because even after releasing some features, we're supposed to monitor people's experience just to check if they are satisfied enough with our product, or maybe we're supposed to change something. So just to give you like bigger understanding of how I work and which framework I follow. So this is like product development cycle. And I really recommend anyone to, if you are not doing that yet, because of course I don't know all of you, if you are not doing that yet, just to start thinking to implementing research on very different steps of product development cycle. And jumping into cybersecurity products, I would like to tell you a little bit more about type of users which we need to somehow study, because we have three main types of users. First of all, we have individuals, so people like me, who has like a lot of devices like computers, laptops, mobile phone, etc. So we have also a solution for protecting these devices for private households. Then we also have more complicated products for business. So these users are completely different from individuals, but they are not only protecting themselves, but also their workstation, their employees. So this is like different group of users. Of course, it's more complicated product, and also more, how to say, complex. Complex is a better word than complicated. And then we have MSPs. And MSPs is like very specific group of users. To be honest, I didn't hear about that before joining to Acronis. And just, you know, to try a little bit engage you into my speech, what do you think, guys? This is like very simple quiz for you. What do you think? What does MSP means? So we have like here three answers, like A, managed service provider, B, Medicare secondary payer, or C, managed service program. Try to think about that. Maybe all of you, maybe some of you know that answer. So let's try to guess that at least. I will give you a few seconds. And I will count up to 5, and I will show you the answer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So MSP means managed service providers. And actually, this is very interesting, because I don't know if you understand that, but or you had that knowledge before, because I didn't, for example. But MSP is like third-party company, and they are remotely manages customer information technology, infrastructure, and end user system. That means they can installing something, they like manage all of the IT structure at the company. So like this is even more complex than business. These people are very, very smart if we talk about the technologies and understanding on cyber protection solution, backups, etc. So this is also very interesting. So at Acronis, we have 3 different type of users. And why I'm saying that? Because if we are conducting some research, we need to understand what is our audience. And we cannot combine the research for these 3 different type of users, because these groups are completely different in terms of needs, problems, and also experience and their challenges on daily activities by using our products. So first of all, of course, we can conduct the research about 3 different types of users. Then I would like to introduce you to a different idea, because I don't know how do you work at your company, but if you are in-house product team, usually what is good way to do is monitoring life cycle of users. So we're supposed to split them into at least 3 different groups. So for example, we're supposed to track experiences of new users. Let's say this can be a group of users who log into our product, started using like 6 months ago. Then we have current users who are using that more than 6 months. And then we have churn users. And I don't know if you are familiar with churn term, but churn users are the people who decided to leave our product, to not use that anymore. And this is also very important group to track experience, because we really need to understand what are the reasons for leaving our companies. If we didn't match their expectation in terms of product, maybe it was more related to the service on the, or maybe the pricing, or maybe it's the reason completely do not connected with our product. Maybe they just decided to close their company. So once again, these are 3 very different groups of users, and we're supposed to follow their motivations, then drivers, then blockers, needs, problems, because what is the main focus on most of the products, maybe not all of them, but we would like to have bigger base of users. We would like to increase the number of users, and at the same time, we would like to decrease number of churn users. So this is very interesting to understand them deeply on different steps on life cycle. Also, I'm adding here one more group, because we shouldn't only be focused about current users, which we already engage into our platform or product or service. We're supposed to also track possible users. So even though if they didn't decide yet to start using our trials, let's say trial version of our products, we're supposed to also understand their motivation or their obstacles, why they didn't decide yet, if we can do something to serve them better and to, just to engage them into our product and make it more useful to switch into production with us. Okay, but it's not only about different type of users, of course, because as UX or product designers or product researchers or product managers, we're supposed to also follow some different scenarios and track them. So, for example, if we talk about Acronis, we can, for example, test checkout process on the website. So how people buying product for individuals, for private people. We can test registration flow, trial flow, how people are learning our product and our features. So this is onboarding basically to our product. We can also, of course, test very different features like creating backups or etc. And what's here is very important to conduct this test before implementing changes or implementing some features or new functions, because I think it's quite easy to understand that if we will be too late with our test, there will be no time to implement changes, to implement improvements. And usually we're supposed to do it before implementing changes. So if we have like an exact time to implement some new feature, we're supposed to have time at least 1 month before that implementation to conduct the tests, because once something will be implemented, it's usually quite hard to change something, especially if you have like quite a matured company, have like a lot of employees, etc., and very different roles. So what I would like to tell you here, that of course in the cyber protect company we have like a lot of interfaces, a lot of different features, a lot of products. So I can assure you that we have a lot of tests, by meaning like usability testing sessions and that more visual and interfaces phases. Then we have methods. And now I would like to jump a little bit about to this topic when we're supposed to choose the best method, because how I understand that process. So it's not only being, on this step, for example, of setting up direction of our product strategy or explore what we're supposed to do next. It's also about choosing the best possible methods. And I think there's like a lot of description about the very different techniques which we can use as product people, but there's not a lot of good materials how we're supposed to choose that. So I would like to give you here some tips which you can follow. I believe it would be interesting for you. So on my example, I'm not starting the project if I not answer on very simple questions. So what is the purpose of the project? So for example, what KPIs we would like to follow? What metrics do we have? What kind of questions or hypotheses or assumptions do we have? What decision we would like to make based on that research? And how much time we have, of course, to deliver the results. So basically, what this question are is like scenario for a stakeholder interview. And again, you will find a lot of templates on Google. And I think what is the most important here, just to start doing that stakeholder interview, because without answer on that questions, we will not be ready to choose the best method. So we need to have that stakeholder interview. After that, we need to understand method limitations and choose the best one for the project we are currently facing. So this is very important, and it's of course easy to say, like stakeholder interview, we're supposed to choose the best methods, but how to do it? So basically what I'm usually do, this is the table, you can of course use that later or just find another source of that. So what we're supposed to do, we're supposed to check like what limitation each of methods have. For example, if we cannot generalize conclusion to populations, if we are talking about qualitative research, yeah, like observational interviews. Of course, it's like easy to understand that we will not conduct like 100. Of course, I mean, we can conduct 100 interviews, but most of them will not have time for that. Yeah, so sometimes if we are like time sensitive, we'll not use that methods also because we need to follow like specific timeline. Or if you would like, let's say, to make some very strategical decision, it's also be better to use more quantitative methods like surveys or analytics, because we can just generalize that conclusions into populations. So why I'm saying, when I'm showing that table for you, just to show you that we have like a lot of different methods, but we really need to understand when to use and what's the best usage of that methods and what are the limitations of that methods. And for example, also sample size is some of the factors which have an impact of our methods. Yeah, so we're supposed to take that into consideration. Probably most of you know NNN Group, Norman Nielsen Group, and they have like an article about which UX research method to use. And they also showing that we can use very different methods depending on the product development stage we are currently. So let's say we would like to, we implemented something, like we released some new feature. So we're supposed to use usability benchmarking or unmoderated UX testing or surveys. Why? Just to monitor how people interact with our product, what they think about that product after release, and if they are facing any problems we're supposed to solve just to make them engaged. Okay, so I have here the second question for you, just because we have not so much time, but probably we'll have time for one more question. So let's try imagine that you work for Amazon or any different marketplace platform, for example, for Allegro, and they're considering to start selling property insurance offers. And this is a new project for them, and they do not deeply understand the specific of that market. So that's why project team wants to understand how people buy insurance, what they are guided by. So what are the drivers, motivations, what is important to them and that property insurance offers, and what concerns they have about buying insurance. And try to think for a moment, what is the best suited research method So first of all, what are you supposed to think here? What is the product development stage here? So if they are on that strategic step or exploratory step or delivering or designing, so this is the first factor you're supposed to think here about. The second is, what kind of question do they have? If they are like very specific or they are like quite open, and what will be the best method here to answer these questions? And again, I will give you quite quickly an answer here. In my understanding, this is the interviews. Why? Because we can deep dive into people's motivations to understand their reasoning. And also insurance, property insurance is quite sensitive because we are talking about the money. So it would be good to do that in person by individual interviews, not by focus groups, let's say, because it will be more safe for people and we still will have a possibility to ask additional questions. And okay, actually this is the last slide and I think I'm on time. So I would like to give you a few tips because UX research is all about impact. Because we are not delivering that results only for us, we are not delivering that only for design department, we are delivering that results for the whole company. So we're supposed to follow product development cycle, as I said on the beginning. We need to feel the heartbeat of organization, and we're supposed to support different stages of product development cycle, starting from strategy up to monitoring released features. We also supposed to deliver conclusions, and conclusion here is the keyword because we're supposed to explain the consequence and impact of some described results. So we cannot only describe them, we need to talk to people about the consequence of that results. Also, we're supposed to share the results with stakeholders, so not only with our internal design department or product department, we're supposed to evangelize that and we're supposed to share that results of that research by, I don't know, sending newsletter or having some monthly calls to present the most important results, etc. Also, to make an impact, it's very important to have some kind of UX metric. So we can use some different surveys or metric like system usability scale or customer satisfaction score or Net Promoter Score if someone likes it, because I do not. But what I'm trying to say that you're supposed to introduce some kind of UX metrics. And if they will be quantitative, it will be better, because usually if we are talking about some strategical decision, it's better to follow some bigger numbers than insights from only qualitative research. As UX researchers and people involved in product, we're supposed to work together on recommendations. So we're supposed to cooperate with different roles, with different roles on improving product experience. So our work is not done by only delivering the results. We're supposed to also be a part of project team who's working on recommendations. And the last tip, which I feel is very, very important, don't be late, because we need to be really on time with delivering the results and giving them insights about our users, about our product. Because if we will bring that too late, it would be too late to incorporate that results when we are making some important decisions. So guys, remember that we need that planning, and I'm not talking only about the planning, what to do just to conduct a usability testing session or survey, but that planning process in terms of looking on designing some roadmap and conducting that research on time is very crucial here, because if we will be late, we will not have impact on decision-making process. And guys, thank you. I think that's all, and I'm ready to ask your questions if you have any. To answer your question, not.
Thank you very much. I thought that was a really interesting kind of example of the best ways of moving from the methods, because it can be overwhelming when there's just so many different methods, and how do you actually try to...
And it's only like some few examples here, because like it's a lot of different variation of that. So yeah, we need to follow very different rules. So sometimes it's like very hard to choose the best one. But as I said, we can follow some rules, set up some process, and it shouldn't be so complicated once we start to follow that framework.
Great. One thing, the question that I had now, if anybody else out there has any questions, please do post them in the comments on whichever platform you're watching this on, and we will post those questions through to Łukasz. But I'm going to start off the questions. I just want you talked a lot in detail, I guess, about picking the method, but with the scenarios that you mentioned up front, how do you help teams avoid getting overwhelmed by too many scenarios and help them to pick the best ones that they should start focusing on?
So you're telling about introducing more feature than we need, like more scenarios, yeah? So of course we can do that on very different ways. For example, we can conduct some card sorting to, give that choice to our users, yeah? So we can ask them what is the most important for them in terms of functionality, let's say. Also, we need to think about, about cognitive effort of people who are interacting with our product, because basically if we will show them too much, they will not understand anything. So this is very important to somehow limit that scenarios. And of course, as UX researchers, we're supposed to give that recommendation to product team. So for example, we can use card sorting and ask people about what are the needs, or even better, sometimes we can check in analytics what scenarios are the most popular at our websites, let's say, yeah, what is what people use the most often, and just to check not only opinions and what people are guessing about that, but how people actually behave about that. So this is like, between UX research and analytics here.
Brilliant. Your point there about opinions kind of leads perfectly into my next question. So in your second example there, you gave the example of the difference between maybe interviews or a survey for trying to gather information from people. Some of the pushback that I've seen is, let's just do a survey because we can get broader, we can get a bigger amount of data. So it's that kind of pushback against interviews will take too long and it's too low data. So how do you try to negotiate or explain to people that, okay, yes, interviews will be a little bit smaller, but it'll be much more valuable data?
Okay, so it's like quite complex questions. I can answer on very different ways on that. So let's start with that. Usually like the golden rule and Northern Star is here to have like some kind of triangulation. So use very different sorts of data. So we can have both interviews and surveys, and it would be the best because we will have like bigger understanding. So let's say interviews, surveys, and analytics, yeah? But most often it's impossible and we do not have enough time for that. And of course, we cannot follow that protocol of triangulation and using 3 different methods. But, sometimes people are thinking that surveys are much quicker, but, it depends, because you need to prepare that survey. You need to send that by by email campaign, let's say, or we need to show that as a pop-up on our interface. So it's not always faster, but of course that reasoning that we will collect much more feedback is very true. So it depends from the decision we need to make. If we need to deciding about some redesigning the platform and the homepage, let's say, of some product, it will be better to ask more people if they have any problems with that. But if we would like to understand what exactly the problem is, we're supposed to check that on in-person meetings. So it depends from the product team we have it depends from UX maturity level of our company. But I would suppose we need to start with understanding what decision we need to make. But sometimes we need to explain that, this is like that survey method, it's not better because it will give us only like general understanding. We can check it in our data. And we're supposed to have more bigger and deeper understanding of that. We're supposed to ask at least 5 people. It won't take us more than, let's say, 3 days. Yeah. So we need to negotiate that somehow, and they play with the cards which they offer us. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Thank you very much, Łukasz. That was really informative, and I think it was Arwa said as well, very informative. Thank you in the comments. So seems like your talk resonated with people there. But thank you for your time. So
yeah, thank you very much for having me once again. And if anyone will have like some follow-ups question, do not hesitate to reach me out later after that. I'm here for you guys. Thank you.